Welcome back to the Double A Guy. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, The Parlay. Joining me in to recap some UFC Jacksonville. Let's get I thought it was a great card. 13 fights. Ilia Topuria getting it done in the main event. Overall, the main card was pretty exciting, other than the no contests. But what do you think of it?
Yeah, the main card is excellent. Prelims a little bit slow, a lot of split decisions, but dude, we got a lot to talk about with these last two fights of the night. Ilia Topuria, Macy Barber, both showed out. I was super impressed with both of them. After the slow start, I thought, man, this card could be cheeks, dude. But it turned around and we got some good finishes. We got some badass fights. So I'm pumped to talk about them. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of decisions to start off in fights that weren't supposed to go to a decision. But overall, on the night, I went up 5.65 units. So another week in the green for me. That's 5 straight. And hit the NH play, hit the underdog play, hit Chepe Mariscal as an underdog. So overall, pretty good card for me. I was happy with it. Obviously, with the no contest, you'll lose an opportunity to win some money or lose some money there. So even with that, going up 5+ units is always a good week. How'd it go for you?
I was a Zhalgas Zhumagulov win away from being up around 5 units too. Still profit on the night, just over 1 unit. Macy Barber came through for me big. I had her by KO or decision, a little double chance action there. But man, Zhalgas losing, I was super confident in him. I thought that, Joshua Van, not much experience in MMA. Zhalgas, yeah, he's like 1-5 in the UFC, but he's not a bad fighter. Like, he'll fight for your money. He'll make it interesting. I thought he'd implement some wrestling a little bit more than he did. And he just looked a little like a step slower, and he was getting hit a lot more. I'd figured in that fight, if Zhalgas can take guys like Charles Johnson to a decision and get robbed, like he's that close, I thought he would have been able to handle Joshua Van. But I was wrong. He definitely lost that fight. So, yeah. Profit's profit, back on track. Had a terrible 2 weeks prior, back in the green this week, and we're heading into the meat of the summer. So I can't wait.
I'm excited for it. If you want to get it on those premium plays, the link will be down in the description to get signed up there. Less than $1 a day for 30 days, and you can join there. But other than that, we could start with the main event, breaking it down. Ilia Topuria getting it done by decision. A lot of people, the line for the over 1.5 was like steamed to the chalk with the under. So, it was not supposed to last that long, but Josh Emmett took a beating, and the durability cashed some tickets for you. I believe you had the over 1.5 in that one, and I wanted to get there. I just couldn't get there personally because I'm like, Topuria is so good on the ground and the feet. If he finishes them early, I'm going to be pissed that I took it. But either way, he gets it done. 5 rounds, just domination. And a 50-42 on the scorecard for Chris Lee, which was pretty nuts. What do you think of it?
Yeah, 50-42. I haven't looked, but I can't remember in recent history seeing a 50-42. Amanda Nunes didn't get one against Aldana, and she dominated that fight. It's just insane to me. 50-42. And Chris Lee being the one to give it too. Like, bro, you did not have to do Emmett like that. Like, you're already in hot water with the fans, and you've made some horrible decisions. Thankfully, he didn't give Emmett a round or something. That would have looked worse. But, 50-42 is outrageous. But Ilia Topuria, man, he checked all the boxes for me. Going into this fight, I knew he's a great fighter. I knew he's got power in the hands. There was a few more boxes I wanted him to check. That was going to be, what's he look like in a 5-round fight that goes the distance? Like, what's he going to look like in the championship rounds? Also, we saw him get clipped by Jai Herbert, so kind of wanted to see, is that a fluke? Is he going to get clipped more often going forward? And he took some pretty decent shots at Josh Emmett. And then composure, he checked that box off too, man. He started this fight a little slower. I think obviously being 5 rounds, he wanted to pace himself. But he stayed so composed, even in the times he had Emmett hurt. Like, he didn't rush in, emptied the gas tank. He just did his thing for 5 rounds. I think he fought like, if the knockout comes, it comes. If not, I'm going to showcase all of my skills. And he did just that, dude. He looked like he belongs in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. he looked like very calculated compared to some other fights where he's like swinging hard as hell. Like against Bryce Mitchell, he was swinging out of his shoes, with not wearing shoes, but swinging out of his frame. And maybe that's just because he respected Josh Emmett more on the feet, to where he's like, I can't overextend myself and leave myself open. But yeah, like you said, it was a beating, and that it was a 10-7 in the fourth round, I believe, for Chris Lee, and he gave Topuria a 10-8 the round before that. So the only thing I can think of is he's like, round 3 he gave Topuria 10-8, and then round 4 was even worse. So then he's like, well, maybe I got to make this a 10-7 since it was a lot worse. So that's the only reason I can think. But a 10-7 in that case is pretty dang rare. And yeah, we don't need to make this about the judging, because I don't want to take away from Topuria's performance, because it didn't really matter in that case. And Josh Emmett's just a damn dog, dude. Like, the fact, I thought they were going to stop it after the fourth round, because I don't think he could see out of that eye, but he was like, no, I want to keep fighting. And he got beat so bad, DC thought he might be retiring after that, because he walked over to him and he was taking off the gloves, and he's like, what is next for you? He's like, I'll go back and assess it with my team. But yeah, it was a beating, and impressive. I'm a little surprised he didn't try to take Josh Emmett down more. He took him down in round 5 just to kind of like coast to the end, and it worked out well for him. It was definitely the smart move. The fight IQ of Topuria was on point, throughout the whole fight. I mean, just the jab was like the best weapon, just to keep something in the face of Josh Emmett, so he couldn't really load up anything good and land anything. But yeah, I mean, I think moving forward, it's either the winner if Volkanovski wins, I think that's who they match him up with. Other than that, I mean, you could maybe give him like Ortega, but what's the point? Like, Ortega hasn't been active. Holloway's got a fight booked. It's kind of odd that like they booked that Holloway fight with Korean Zombie the week of the Topuria fight, or maybe it's the week before, but like that close. It's like, if Topuria put that performance on like right before they booked that, maybe they're like, maybe we should make Holloway versus Topuria. But it might seem like they didn't want to have to make that fight, to where they're like, all right, I got to give him Max, and Max might beat him, so that we don't have another guy to give Volkan to go for the title for Volkanovski. Weird stuff, but I would assume Volkanovski's next. What do you think?
No, I think it has to be. I mean, this division, the top 10 right now, is set up perfectly for Ilia Topuria to be the next title contender. Because, yeah, like you said, Holloway's got a fight booked. If he does win, I mean, Holloway's not getting a title shot. He's lost to Volk 3 times. Like, if Volk wins, I think the only way that Topuria is not next is if Max Holloway wins and Yair Rodriguez wins at 290, and then you could do that rematch. Now that Yair is the champ and Max Holloway's already beat Yair, so there's like a case to do that. But again, like, Max Holloway's beloved by the UFC, but would you rather, if you're the UFC, have Max Holloway step in there and contend for a belt, or you want to try to get Ilia Topuria in there against Yair Rodriguez in an insane fight? I mean, that's an insane striking battle right there. And whoever wins, like, you've got a flashy, you've got a knockout style fighter, a high level striker for a champion. Like, that's exactly what you want for the UFC. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you just beat number 5 Emmett. You're not going to fight Calvin Kattar. Ortega just lost to Yair after he got injured, which is not Ortega's fault, but I just don't see him really being in the mix for a title shot right now. Especially if Volk wins. Volk's already beat him. He's not going to fight Chikadze, who just lost to Calvin Kattar. There's just not many options for Topuria right now that make sense besides the title. Like, it's just pretty cut and dry right now. If Volk wins, it's got to be Topuria.
Yeah, I would almost say going the 5 rounds and dominating for 5 rounds was like better for him than getting like a round 2 finish or round 3 finish. So, like, you saw he was good for 5 rounds. He dominated for 5 rounds. It looked good for him. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Undefeated Topuria. Exciting everywhere the fight goes. Co-main event, Maycee Barber, Amanda Ribas. This one, most people saw it going to the decision, but Maycee Barber came out to lay some hands on Amanda Ribas. I mean, she got her bloodied up in the first round, and then they were both kind of bloodied up in the second round. She just took over. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, Macy Barber is one of these fighters who's good, but like once she gets hurt or starts, like she got her nose busted up by a big shot. Once she takes like a shot, it's like a switch flips and then she is full go. Like that head kick she landed was perfect. The follow-up shots and combinations that really hurt Hebaz was insane. And then she's really strong on the ground. So, right when she kind of got that position, you knew it was about over. Hebaz couldn't really get up from under her, and she was already hurt, and Macy Barber was just giving it everything she had. It's weird though because she beats a high level, women's fighter like Hebaz, but still looks so raw in there at times. Like she looks like she's just brawling, which has worked out for her. But she's constantly getting better. She's getting a little more technical each time. Her striking's getting better each time out. Like I said, I was really impressed with a lot of the combinations she was putting together. And that's what's going to make her a fighter who can climb the ranks towards the top. Like if she gets better every time out. She looked really good last night. That's a huge stamp and way to break into that top 10. I think she was number 11. So you get a big finish like that over a girl like Amanda Hebas, you're knocking on the door of the middle of the top 10 there, especially in that division. So she's she's super young still too. She's got plenty of time. I hope they don't rush her into something crazy because she's got plenty of time.
Yeah, the striking looks so much better, than in recent performances, and she's so tough and she's such a dog. Like she's gonna always become in the fight. She's never gonna give up. And even her fight with Grasso, like she won the third round against Grasso. Who's obviously the number one pound for pound fighter in the women's UFC right now. So that's like something to hang your hat on. And she's always going to be in every fight. Like she's pretty well rounded too. Like she's got a good ground game. The striking's getting better. She's just a strong, tough girl. That's going to be a tough out for anybody. That's probably why, she's getting a lot of these decisions. So I was looking at the stats when I was making my selections, and she's outstruck, or she has a great significant strike ratio. Like she just doesn't get hit as much, and she's always in your face. She just pressures you a ton. So yeah, moving forward, I'm interested to see who they give her next. But you don't need to rush her into anything. 125 for women's is pretty dang tough. Like, it is pretty dang tough. Like you're looking at the top 5, like I wouldn't want to fight like a Tyler Santos or a Manon Fiorot. And now you got Rose Namajunas in 125 too. So taking on Fiorot. So there's a lot of names you could match her up with.
Actually, last night during the fight, I was watching, and this is like the first bet I put out and placed this week was Macy Barber by decision or KO. And for some reason, I was sitting there watching the fight when she got the knockout, and I was pissed because I thought I just put her by decision, but I had the double chance on FanDuel. So I went into my account and it said win. I was like, holy shit, thank God I put or KO on that one, plus 180. So that was a great hit there at the end of the night.
I was surprised. I thought that one was for sure going to the cards.
Yeah.
The no contest, Justin Tafa, poor guy, getting stabbed in the eye by a big man's fingers, because 6'6", I can only imagine how long those fingers are, and he got it right in the eye. But there's not really too much to say about that. It didn't last long. Poor Justin Tafa. That's a tough one. I mean, you come all the way from New Zealand, Australia, and get poked in the eye. And for Austin Lane, debut in your home city, or where you got drafted to the Jaguars, and that's a tough draw. Yeah,
one of the nastiest eye pokes too that you'll see. I mean, that finger was deep in there, and I mean, you could tell Tafa wasn't faking that. Like he wasn't looking for a way out. I mean, he hadn't really taken any damage. There's no way. There's no reason to take a way out. But Austin Lane, we didn't really get to see what his striking defense looks like, or what it looks like when he gets hit hard. But dude, those kicks he were throwing to the body looked good. They're quick, hard. So I don't know. We'll see what he does going forward. But I think this is a great test of his skills in this fight. It was going to be one of those fights where you really see if he's legit or not. So it kind of sucks it got ended.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad eye poke. Like it was
the eyes
bad.
looked the same. Like Bilal and Tafa's eyes look like identical.
Just puffed up and started to bleed. It's like that would be terrible. That'd be terrible. I'd hate that. Onama coming through as an underdog against Gabriel Santos. That KO was out of nowhere. the little uppercut, put him flat out on his back, and pretty brutal because Gabriel Santos was looking good. Like both guys were looking pretty good, but Santos had a great first round. He was mixing in the takedowns with some good striking. Onama was starting to find the range a little bit and find the target with his punches. And then that one on the chin just put him out. I had a feeling that was coming because Santos, he throws like hard. He throws pretty hard when he throws, and he leaves himself open sometimes. But he would take them. Like even in the Lerone Murphy fight, like he would get hit, but he had a pretty good chin. Like he would take it well, just kind of brush it off. And then that one, he could not brush that one off because that put him out bad. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I was impressed with Onama for a couple of reasons. But that knockout shot, it didn't really look like a punch that would normally put a dude out. He just placed it so well and at the exact perfect time. So that was super impressive. On the ground, I thought Onama looked pretty good, but you can tell if you watch the Nate Landwehr fight that he switched camps. You know, he was with James Krause at Glory. You can tell he's training at Elevation Fight Team now, you know, where your cardio is going to get better just because of where you're training at. And it looks good. Like he did not fade after some of those big exchanges. The grappling, like he looked pretty damn good. So I was happy for him too. Gabriel Santos is only 10-1. Like his only loss is Lerone Murphy, and there's a case he beat Murphy. So he's a legit fighter. He's a really good fighter. His skills look really good up until the point he got knocked out. Striking defense has got to get some work in though, because at this level, man, guys like Onama, they're gonna find the chin, and you can't be taking big shots from guys like that in the UFC. So, yeah, Onama, who looked pretty damn good.
Brendan Allen looked pretty damn good, too, against Bruno Silva. I mean, it turned into a bit of a firefight there. And if you ask me who's going to be better in a firefight, I would say Bruno Silva. But Brendan Allen got the better of him. They kind of exchanged some hands right before the finishing sequence there. And I thought Bruno Silva was gonna start to put him out. But Brendan Allen's the one that dropped him and then found his way out in the back too, like kind of forced his way there and sunk it in, which was pretty damn impressive because it looked like Silva could probably just survive and go to round two, but he got it done in round one. I was impressed. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I think Brendan Allen could be a dark horse of this division, man. He's getting better every time out and like rapidly too. Like he's never been this, you know, crazy good striker or anything, but in these last two fights, he's definitely the one leading the dance, landing the bigger shots and more accurate too. Like his head movement's getting better. His combinations, he's throwing shots in combinations now instead of just one shot. And obviously the ground game is phenomenal. So he's starting to put it all together and he's doing it at the right time. He's just going through these guys, man. Muniz was a big favorite over him. And look what he did in that fight. He was a sizable favorite here, not crazy, but he looked like it for sure. That shot he put Bruno Silva down with was nice, and then he's a finisher. Once the fight goes to the ground, he's always looking to get you out of there. So interesting to see where he goes next. I think he's got a pretty bright future, though. He's going to have some fun fights coming up.
Yeah, he's been training at Kill Cliff, and the striking has looked so much better. Like in that fight with Chris Curtis, he just got stunned and got put out. And then since then, he hasn't really fought anybody that's too great on the feet. He got tested here, and he passed the test, I would definitely say. Neil Magny, Phil Rowe. What a boring fight. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, they put this as the featured prelim, and they're probably kicking themselves because it was a clinch fest. It just wasn't really that exciting to watch, which is kind of how Neil Magny wants to fight, and that's how he wins his fights, and that's how he's made a living, and he got it done. That was like a close fight. If it went to Phil Rowe, I wouldn't have been mad, and I'm not mad that it went to Neil Magny. I did have Magny by decision, which seems like just the obvious bet if he's fighting a guy that's behind him at this point. But yeah, Neil Magny got it done. Just vintage stuff. I was expecting Phil Rowe to try to avoid the clinch more. Like he was kind of going into him to start it off, but like when they were on the feet, I thought Phil Rowe would start to let his hands go a little bit more, but he just got like drawn into that clinch game, and I think that kind of screwed him. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you if you thought that he was clinching like way too much. Like he was trying to get in on Magny way too much because that's just a game you're not going to win with Neil Magny. Like he's so good in the clinch. He's good at defending takedowns, and he's a long dude. He's got a lot of leverage. And Phil Rowe, like his path to victory all week, I kept thinking is if he wins, he's got to knock him out. Like he's got to knock Magny out because he's not like a high volume striker. Normally, he's not a guy that's just going to go out and wrestle you to death and win a dominant decision. So I figured Neil Magny would get the win, and it'd be Neil who's going to clinch, get you against the fence, land some elbows, some knees, and just win this thing on the scorecards. But it was Phil Rowe who was trying to engage, and Phil Rowe, he just doesn't have the volume to win decision fights against guys like Neil. And I put a 1.55 units on Neil Magny. I thought he was just going to go out there and kind of big brother him and look like a vet. Ended up being a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but nobody was ever in danger. So it just made me more confident as the fight went on. Like if Neil Magny's not out here getting rocked, as this fight goes on, he's going to get stronger and should get the decision win. So.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. I was with you. Randy Brown, Wellington Turman. I was a little concerned going to the scorecards considering stuff that happened earlier during the week, but I didn't really have anything on the premium plays because at this point my parlay was Zhumagulov and Randy Brown was caked from Zhumagulov, but Randy Brown, he was a minus 212 favorite going into this one against Wellington Turman, who was coming down from middleweight, and I was expecting him to kind of cruise to a decision win, and it started to look a little dicey going into like the second half of the second round and into the third round, which he lost. And minus 212 was like, dang, like come on, bro, like you should be able to stick your jab out there and stay to the outside. And then he was just getting thrown around on the cage at the end in the third round. A little disappointing to see, but nonetheless, he got the dub. 29-28, won the first two rounds, and I guess you could just say he coasted at that point, but that's a dangerous game to be playing nowadays. Like to think you just got the first two rounds and you're going to coast. So a good win for Randy Brown, but not like his best performance, I wouldn't think. What'd you think?
Yeah, good to get the win, but not a great look. Like if you're Randy Brown and you're that much longer than your opponent and you've got a great jab, and Wellington Turman's known for his jiu-jitsu and his grappling, and Turman kind of turned it on a few times and was landing some really, really good shots. I don't know if Randy Brown was tired. Like you said, he was just coasting. Maybe he was way too confident that he won the first two rounds. But I expected more out of Randy Brown, if I'm being honest. Like we've seen Turman get flatlined by dudes who aren't as good of a striker as Randy Brown. So, yeah, I had him in that parlay too with Zalgas. And we both had that same parlay, but I don't think we talked about that before we put our plays out. I think we were just both on it. So that it didn't really matter at this point. Randy Brown at minus 212, looking back, like Turman might have been a decent bet because that fight could have gone to him. There's a world it could have gone to him. And, if you're going to take a plus 180 dog and it goes to split decision, like that's a pretty good read. So, Randy Brown, man, I don't know. He's got to turn it up like going into the later rounds. Like you can't just coast like that. He's got the ability with the jab and the striking. He just didn't really let it out.
Yeah, I almost think those leg kicks from Turman might have caught up to him as the fight went on because
for sure
he was hitting those pretty hard all throughout the fight. But the free pick of the week, Mateusz Rebecki coming through for your boys. And he did it in dominant fashion, I would say. I mean, he just beat the crap out of his legs, kicking him from the inside. Loic would try to switch his stance. He'd go to the other one. He'd go to the outside. He was just beating those things up, and Loic wanted none of it. And it was only a matter of time before he got him out of there. Eventually dropped him with that left hand and put him out. Good performance from Rebecki. I'm pissed I didn't put more on it because I'm like, I think he's better everywhere the fight goes. And he proved it. He definitely proved it. What do you think?
Yeah, man, he's so strong in there. Like grappling wise, he throws everything into his shots, and that kind of made me nervous. That's the one thing that I got nervous about taking him, and that's why it was only to win one unit. Like I would have played, like you said, I would have placed a lot more had I known. But against Fiore, he was getting a little tired in there, and I think he was trying to knock Fiore out in that first round. Gassed a little bit. He holds a lot of muscle, and so he's susceptible to kind of gassing as the fights go on. And, this one, he was still throwing a lot of power, but he wasn't just like going all out blitz. Like he was a little more calculated. Those leg kicks were nasty. I think he knew that after that first one or two leg kicks landed, that was going to be there all night. And he kind of shifted the game plan to just start beating those up in the first round and then see what was going to happen. But the grappling department, man, the dude is good. The dude is as strong as you can be in that division. And Loic Radzhabov's a good fighter. So you went out there and just dominated, kicked his legs off, and got the finish. But, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Loic was throwing pretty hard, too. There was a couple of times I got a little nervous that Rebecca was leaving his chin out there and was getting touched a little. But at the end of the day, man, Rebecca, he's going to be a problem for a lot of guys in that division.
It is. We were saying it wrong all week, but it's Rombetsky, which makes no sense.
Yeah,
but,
not in America, bro.
yeah. I heard him saying that. I'm like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Tabitha Ricci, Jillian Robertson. Your big play was on Tabitha Ricci, and that cashed pretty easily, I would say. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I love Jillian Robertson as a fighter. She stopped and took pictures with you and I at UFC Kansas City. She's cool. I like where she trains. Dean Thomas. I mean, she's got a good team around her. But when she doesn't have the opportunity to get submissions, when she's not the one who's on top on the ground, she's not going to go out there and beat many people with her striking. And I figured Tabitha had good enough grappling to keep it on the feet. Or if she got the takedown, she would be the one on top. I didn't see Jillian taking her down. So I just figured, Ricci was going to just kind of touch her up like she did. She's not going to land anything significant to knock Jillian Robertson out or anything. I just figured, man, she's going to be the better stand-up fighter here, faster, more volume. And she was. And she got a few takedowns of herself, and you could tell she wanted no part of that ground game of Jillian Robertson. I think when she got the takedown, she could feel the strength of Jillian, because Jillian's cutting down now. She is going to be a bigger fighter than some of these girls. Yeah. And Tabitha Ricci's only 5'1", the Jillian's 5'5". Perfect performance by her. She did exactly what she needed to do. Looked sharp on the feet. Like I said, not much power behind those shots, but she racks up the volume and racks up the points. So I was glad to see that one hit.
Yeah, I saw it going one of two ways. Either that way, or it's Jillian Robertson finding herself on top and doing some work in control of the jiu-jitsu. But I thought that outcome was a lot less likely. So I'm like, I think Tabitha, she was definitely the play. You got it right there. And I pretty much just sprinkled a little on Jillian inside the distance, which, isn't too much lost. But yeah, good read there. Joshua Van, Zhalgas Zhumagulov, a split decision. Once again for the boy Zhalgas Zhumagulov, and he's on the wrong side of it once again. Joshua Van, I think he pretty clearly won that to me. I mean, there were somewhat, close rounds. All of them were pretty close rounds, but Joshua Van was just doing the better work. Like, he's just hitting him more in combination, backing him down. Zhalgas he was on his back foot for a lot of the fight. Like, Joshua was just walking him down, like in control of it, and he stuffed the takedowns. Wouldn't get Zhalgas couldn't do any work on the ground. So a good performance from him, 21 years old. And where does Zaddy the Baddie go from here? Is he going to get cut?
I think you keep him in the UFC. You see if he can get that split decision record. He's got 3 now in the UFC? 3 out of his 6 or 7 fights. I mean, yeah, I was on Zhalgas here, and looking back, like, maybe I shouldn't have taken him because, he's only got 1 win in the UFC. But my thought process was, he definitely, in my opinion, beat Charles Johnson, that he got robbed in that fight. I thought he could have beat Jeff Molina. He lost that split decision fight. And those are 2 pretty good fighters. And if he's at their level, he's going toe-to-toe in 3 rounds with those guys, I thought he should have been able to take care of Joshua Van and show who the veteran in this game is, who can grapple better, who's going to have better striking. And Joshua Van just stayed pretty damn composed for a 21-year-old making his UFC debut in front of a live crowd like that. Didn't gas at all. He looked pretty sharp. So, yeah, I don't know, man. If Zhalgas wins, it's a big day. It's a big night as far as the betting goes. But what are you going to do, man? I should have just bet the fight to be a split decision. That'd have been, better than taking either side.
Smarter,
there.
Yeah, that's funny.
It is what it is. I thought Zalgas had a good chance to win before the fight, but yeah, just can't take him anymore. Check that one off the list.
He's just so damn hittable. Like he
Yeah.
gets hit nearly 6 significant strikes per minute. Like that's his downfall. I think it's just the judges just see him get hit too much, and they're like, well, I mean, now the hair's flopping everywhere every time he gets hit too. So it's like, I don't know if it helped him or not. Obviously not, because they didn't get it. But yeah, poor Zalgas. The fight of the night to me, Chepe Mariscal and Trevor Peek. I mean, I got to give myself some props.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
I thought I read this fight perfectly. Other than not betting it to go the distance, which I was considering, but I was like, dang, I don't know if I got the balls to do that. I didn't have the balls to do that, but I knew it was going to be a dogfight, and I knew Chepe Mariscal was going to have the better cardio. He wasn't going to get hit as cleanly, and he was probably going to be able to mix in more mixed martial arts moves. And as the dog, I got him at plus 145. I had to take it, and it worked out well for me there. I also took the over 1.5 at plus 185, which was like taking candy from a baby. I mean, the first round was a little bit of a sweat, not going to lie, but once round 2 started, you could tell both guys were a little drawn out from that first round, and I was like, yeah, this one's going to go longer. And we hit the over or the higher than 35.5 significant strikes for Trevor Peek. So I'm pretty sure swept the bets on that fight, which I was happy about. But overall, I mean, the fight was entertaining. Like Trevor Peek's always going to come to throw. Chepe Mariscal was down to throw as well. And he was hitting Trevor with some big shots. That damn head is so dang hard. Like, I don't know how he was taking those ones at the end of the fight. Like a full kick to the face and then just getting rocked back and forth. Hopefully he can come back and keep like putting on fun performances. And hopefully they keep giving him guys that aren't going to like just completely outclass him in every facet and just put them in fun fights for now. But yeah, I was excited. I knew that was going to be such a fun fight, and I was excited for it. I'm surprised I didn't get fight of the night. But either way, maybe they thought it was like a little too low level, like a little too crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought there was a chance that Chepe would look a lot better and would win this fight. But when the line opened at minus 200 and Trevor Peek dropped down all the way to minus 105, I felt like I missed the train on Chepe. I missed all the value with him, being plus 150, plus 180. I missed all that. So I thought, okay, Trevor Peek was a massive favorite not long ago. I'm getting him at almost even money. I'm going to take a shot on him. Definitely the wrong read. And I also thought if he could come into that first round and just throw everything he had into it, Chepe's been dropped a few times. I mean, he's been knocked out 3 times. I thought there's a chance Trevor Peek just, throws the kitchen sink at him in the first minute and just overwhelms him. And that's all she wrote. But after he didn't get that finish in the first, I knew that it was bad news for Trevor Peek because, you just can't sustain your gas tank fighting like that over 3 rounds. And Chepe was, he's a seasoned fighter. He might not have, UFC experience, but he's fought a lot of UFC guys. So he's seen every style of fighter. He's been to decisions before. I mean, he's got a good gas tank. And, yeah, man, he looked really, really good in that 3rd round, too. It was fun to watch. Great fight to watch, for sure.
Yeah, it was. The controversial decision of the night, Jack Jenkins, Jamal Emmers. How did you score it?
I had Jamal Emmers winning, but I don't think is necessarily a robbery. Like Jack Jenkins did some good work too. But it's kind of exactly why I didn't place a bet on either side. Like Jamal Emmers was near 2-1 favorite. I thought he was the rightful favorite. He's got a more polished, full mixed martial arts game, whereas Jack Jenkins lands really good leg kicks. He's a little wild on the feet sometimes, has some good grappling. Jamal Emmers just kind of puts it all together in some fights, but has not the best fight IQ at times. I did think Jamal Emmers, man, I do think he won the fight, but like I said, it's just one of those fights you could kind of score it either way depending how you look at it. I am going to watch that one back too and just kind of break it down round by round. I haven't had a chance to do that, but I guess I wasn't as shocked as some people when I heard Jack Jenkins. What'd you think?
I was pretty shocked. But like as I was watching it, I thought round 1 was pretty close, and then I thought round 2 was pretty close as well. And I like they were probably pretty tough to score, I would say, because it seemed in real time like Emmers was maybe getting more shots off, like as far as numbers go, but Jack Jenkins was maybe landing like the harder shots, like some really hard leg kicks, some really tough body shots and stuff like that. Like those body kicks he was throwing with the left leg were hitting pretty hard. So that was like those were tough rounds to judge. But then you see Jamal Emmers kind of like clearly win the third round.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was like, they're judging off of rounds, but then just seeing that in the third round to be like, all right, that's probably chalked. Like he's got to get both rounds on 2 of the judges' scorecards. That's a tough ask, but it did happen. And I'm like, yeah, I was just shocked because I thought it was chalked. Jamal Emmers was minus 1,700 as far as the live odds go, which was pretty crazy to see it go the other way. And of course, it's Sal D'Amato and Chris Lee, so that's like the worst. That's the worst look. That's those 2 guys. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think they were close. Like first 2 rounds were pretty close, but then seeing the third round be pretty clear for Emmers. I thought it was clear that Emmers was going to win. I'd have to go back and watch it to like really sit down and score it. But yeah, like I thought it was chalked. I had a bet on Jack Jenkins on the money line and by decision, so I was happy. But I thought that was a gift. I thought that was a gift for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I think too, like seeing Jamal Emmers clearly win the third round, like puts in a lot of people's head, like, okay,
yeah, exactly.
He just won the fight. Like he just had a great third round, so it does make it tough. But yeah, I was fully expecting to hear Jamal Emmers' names called. So, but after thinking about it, not the worst robbery of all time.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes a lot. It's like,
yeah,
it's a close fight, and then one guy pulls away, and it's like, all right, that guy won because he separated himself. But then you go back to the rounds, and they're judging off rounds, which is like, well, the rounds are pretty close. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Dumas, Brundage. This one was not tough. This one was the opposite of tough. I couldn't hear what they were saying in the corner. I saw a little clip at the after of the Brundage's corner, but he looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like the corner was like pleading with him to like do something because he came out. And we talked about this on the preview show. Like the fight IQ is awful, like just straight up awful. We called Dumas to win. And we were like, people are down on Dumas, but are you really going to put your hard-earned money on Brundage at like minus 180, minus 200? Like this guy pulled guillotine the past like 2 fights on guys that like it's just not going to work. Like that's like his only move. And then he goes in there and pulls guillotine like twice in the first round. Like, what are you doing? Like you're like the better wrestler. You probably want to just sustain top control, but you're going to pull guillotine and then allow a guy that is not that great on the ground to just end up on top of you on the ground. And he could just stay there because he's huge. It's like, that was a terrible, terrible fight for Cody Brundage. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut him. I know he probably did him a favor taking it on short notice, so maybe there's nothing lost there for him, but it was a bad look. It was a really bad look. And honestly, I saw people saying like they need to investigate that because that's how bad it was. Like, wow. Like, that was what a way to start off the night. But he cashed my less than 24 and a half significant strikes. He only landed 3 in a 3-round fight. I was like, if this thing goes 3 rounds, I don't like my odds, but he ended with 3 significant strikes, which is nuts. Bad look. What'd you think?
Yeah, I wonder if the UFC like promised him a couple more fights after this. Like, hey, you take this fight for us and we're going to give you a little extension here because I mean, first of all, it made no sense for him to take this fight on short notice. Like, you already don't have a great gas tank. Like, you're going to take a fight on short notice against a guy who is, pretty raw and wants to brawl and, fight styles that, takes a lot out of you as far as energy wise. And yeah, jumping guillotine in the first round, Dumas slipped his head out. And then from there, I mean, Dumas just stayed calm, composed, and did some good work on top. He showed, if anything, I know everyone's talking about the Cody Brundage and how bad he looked. If anything, Cedriquez Dumas improved a ton from his last fight against Josh Shrimp. Like, he showed a lot better composure and control. And, he's not in there trying to just find these big knockouts and submissions. He's in there to fight now. And I think he learned a lot in that loss. So props to him. We definitely called that out on the preview show. We definitely talked about, you can't, you're only as bad, I guess. You're never going to be as bad as your last fight. We hear guys say that all the time. And Cedriquez Dumas got better. But Cody Brundage, man, 3 significant strikes over 3 rounds. Like, that is unbelievable. And, I mean, there's times, you had good position at times. Cedriquez was able to reverse position and stuff, but jumping guillotine like that, it makes you think that Cody Brundage was just trying to go first round finish or bust and then just live with the consequences, because he just did not have it in him whatsoever. And he's taken some bad losses in his UFC career. So UFC had to have promised something. That fight made no sense for him to take, because if you win, okay, you just beat Dumas, who looked terrible in his debut and is probably not UFC caliber. If you lose, you just lost to Dumas, who looked terrible in his debut, and people are kind of writing off. So, like, it's a lose-lose situation for you. So yeah, man, it's weird. It's weird, but yeah, congrats to everyone who took Dumas in that and cashed a decent-sized underdog right off the bat.
Yeah, that was a good bounce-back spot for him in the home state of Florida. That's the recap for UFC Jacksonville. We're looking forward to next week. We're back at the Apex. We got Sean Strickland and Abus Magomedov. If you want to get the plays for that, use the link in the description to get on the double leg premium, and we'll be coming out with the full card preview for next week's card. Other than that, you can stay up to date on Instagram at the double leg, at HeyJivePicks on the medias. For me, where can they find you?
TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, the Parlay MMA.
All right, till next time when we see you in the preview, the double leg signing out.